Alright guys, we are back on the CX500, and in this video what I'm going to do is show you how I moved the fuel tank a little bit, and this is in order to maintain our steering angle, because as you know or may not have known, we have an FT500 front end on here, and this has a different triple offset, so we need to make everything work together. So again, in this video I'm going to show you exactly how I did that, and we're going to get to it right now. Alright, I just finished making a couple new fuel tank mounting tabs, so not terribly difficult to make. I used a 1 1/4 inch hole saw, and the guide bit for that is like 1/4 inch, so it just happened to be the correct pilot hole to tap an M8, which is what these things take stock. So works out fine. Done this before, really clean. Not too terribly difficult, as I said, just need a vise, couple tools, and you can get it done. This is also 3/8 inch steel, so a little thicker. But I happen to have some. It's kind of how thick it needs to be. I hated cutting that piece up though. I use it as like a weight and a flat panel, so whatever. Anyway, go ahead and start mocking these up on the bike, and we'll be on our way. Alright, so just a quick little tidbit. This section right here, you can see that little groove all the way around. This is a piece that is welded actually into the frame. If you look through this hole, you can see on the back side of this, same seam, it is welded all the way around. So what I usually do with these is once I cut them off and I grind them smooth, I run a bead all the way along the outside there, and it gives it all its strength back. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to grab the TIG and then just run a bead all the way around, make it one piece again, weld it on both sides, and we'll be more than safe. Okay, I have my tank mounts kind of finished. I just need to weld them onto the frame. To do that, I did go ahead and drilled new holes in the frame. And this is like, I don't know how much of an exact science you could actually get it to be, but basically I'm just, I position the tank by hand, looking at it, and then I mark one side of the marker, and then I just try to duplicate that mark on the other side, measuring in any direction that you can, the distance from the front mount, or from the old mount to your new mount. And then, I just drew a line from here, like I used straight edge, and then had that many millimeter down, and just do the best you can. But anyway, I have the pieces on here, and I have just a 6mm bolt ran all the way through, holding them to the frame. And beyond that, the hole that this is passing through is larger than the 8mm. That way, the bolts can actually extend all the way in. They're not going to interfere or anything like that. So as of now, it's time to weld. Well, now we're on to the back of the tank here, and I need to construct a new rear tank mount since we have moved the tank back. Now I'm looking at this mount, and if you look at it from the side, I just don't like all the space here. I want to build an entire seat here, obviously, and I'd like to have it to where it could have almost like a flat front and fit really nicely up here. So I think what the best thing to do, maybe not the best, and definitely not the easiest, but for me, I think my option is going to be cutting this tab off and basically saving it, but just putting it vertically, you know, set behind the seam here, and that way I can just build an entire seat that fits right into this channel nice and tight. I'll go ahead and just cut this rear mount out and modify it, make a new one, you know, just modify, make a new one, do whatever I have to do to make that work. So I guess I really don't want to cut it all off, but that's what I gotta do. Okay, I'm just kind of figuring out how I want to go ahead and do this rear mount for the tank. And if you guys recall, my CX500 I finished up. I really like the tank mount I did on that. It was probably a little bit more resilient than it needed to be, so I'm just kind of downsizing that. Now, I just used the bolt, well, not the bolt, I just used the nut and the part of the bracket from the original mount here, cut it up, and then just some square tubing that I cut up into a nice little angle here. And that's going to sit on the backbone like that, and then of course this will go about right here, and then we're gonna, you know, weld all of it in. So this is gonna be a nice stout piece, and then it will still be rubber mounted. Once we have this, then I can go ahead and make a plate, you know, to hold this, and then that's gonna get welded to the back to the tank. So right now I've got this acetoned and clean. I'll go ahead and kind of tack it in place, and then from there we can just start kind of imagining our brackets as needed. Weld on those brackets to the tank, and we should be good to go. So yeah, trying to keep it, you know, keep it clean, keep it simple. Another concern is, let me grab the bracket here. Never mind, the bracket's in a million pieces. But this bracket right here, the original tank mount, I kind of feel like I should put another bracket in its place to help tie this tube into this tube, just for those lateral forces, because you're only dealing with an already bent tube right here. And I feel like since we're not going to do like a full-blown electronics tray, which would add some strength to this thing, I feel like I should add at least another point in here. So what I might do is just do another flat bracket, a flat piece of steel here, and that would just give me some more weld area. Even at a minimum, if I just did a plate, like 2 little gusset plates that kind of filled in right here, that would add some strength regardless. But yeah, just want to try to avoid a little bit of that lateral twisting force, or just add resilience against that. But thinking out loud. Alright, that'll be good enough to hold there in place and figure out the rest of the mount. By the way, recently my friend Jonathan had sent me some more back caps, and this is like a really stubby unit. And it just got me thinking, I had been using a traditional gas lens on the front here, and this thing just weighed a little bit more and was just really bulky. So I finally picked up some Michael Furick stuff, and this is a number 8. In the 8 Pro, I ordered a clear one along with 4 of the ceramic ones, which are really cool. But man, having like a short, compact torch is really nice. I also picked up a number 10, 2 Jazzy 10s, which have a diffuser built into them. So that's going to hopefully allow a little bit better coverage when I do some stainless, like the stainless exhaust in this thing. And I'm really excited. But so far, man, it's like, doesn't seem like it, but it's a huge difference in just like getting into the tight little areas and not having everything in the way. So really like it. Alright, you guys didn't need any more welding footage. So we have this bracket all welded, and you can see I have the tank on, of course, and you get an idea of how it mounts. So nice strong piece, and from the side nothing is extending past the tank. So what this is going to allow me to do is build a seat pan here and have it basically just fit right up to this section here, and not have to build any more complicated than they need to be brackets to get it to slide in and whatnot. So no plan as of yet how I'm gonna do the seat pan. There's a lot of options, but I have a shape in mind. Again, this is like a dirt bike slash ADV. It's got a mix of styles, so I want to make it look right at home. But I think I am gonna cut the center out of this and then build some kind of electronics packaging here, and I think I'm gonna do it differently than what I've ever seen, because I want to focus on having a little bit extra storage on this thing. So we have compact electronics, we have a lot of space here. We're not going for an open triangle or anything like that, so I think I might do this a little differently, and I hope you guys like what I come up with. Now in the previous video you saw that we swapped the entire front end on, meaning that we used the FT500 triples as well, and I wanted to do that to maintain the FT500's geometry with the axle offset and stuff like that. Now the difference, or a big variance here between this and the CX500, is these triples have a lot less fork offset front to back, and because of that our tubes are then moving closer to the frame. So that's why we really have to move the tank rearward just a little bit. You can see our original center point here. We're not that far off, but we had to make those changes so we can maintain good steering angle. My goal is always to have as tight a turning radius as possible to make this thing as maneuverable as possible, and this goes for any bike I build. Now you can see our stock steering stops here. I have not modified anything on the frame or the triple itself. Works just as factory. Now I did modify the tank just a little bit more. I have trimmed this edge back just a little bit. It's very subtle, but I've brought it back probably an 1/8 inch, right about here, just that seam, and that's just for added clearance. You know, I positioned this where I wanted it, but it was still it was just right there, just touched a little bit right on the triple, but you know, not a big deal. Trim that back and we're good to go. It's tight everywhere, but it clears. This piece back here I spent entirely too much time on, trying to make it clear like a washer, and so it was easy to get a socket on and just all that stuff. Really over-engineered. Alright, so here we are. We have the bungs made for this thing, welded on, and this is just mimicking the original design, just remaking it, moving it a little bit, relocating that tank. And then we have our completely over-engineered rear brace mount system here. And just, you know, there's no one way to do this. I've never done it the same way twice, except for maybe these bungs, but you know, other than that, just kind of whatever works for what you're working on. And yeah, if you have any questions, leave below. The next episode you're going to see is probably going to be on these crash bars I'm modifying here. That's just currently what I'm doing. So anyway, if you haven't already, check out the previous episode. We talk about the fan on this thing as well as some of the engine stuff. Subscribe if you haven't already. Check some other videos out. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. Hope to see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.